Cheat codes are some of the coolest things you can use in video games. By entering special passwords, you can change your game in a ton of fun, unique, and hilarious different ways. Without a doubt, the most iconic cheat code in gaming history is the Konami Code. The Konami Code was created by Kazuhisa Hashimoto, and it first appeared in the NES port of Konami's arcade space shooter game, Gradius. In the pause menu, by entering the code up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, you instantly gain access to all of the game's power-ups. The reason why Hashimoto created the code is because he sucked at the game, so this gave him an easy way of playing through it and testing the levels. While the Konami Code first appeared in Gradius, I think it's best known for its appearance in another NES port of one of Konami's arcade games, the run-and-gun classic, Contra. By entering the code and then pressing the start button at the title screen, you get 30 lives. Contra is an infamously really hard game, so having a ton of extra lives is a welcome gift. The Konami Code also appeared in a ton of other Konami games, from Silent Hill 3, where it removes the character Douglas's clothes, to Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, where it unlocks the hardest difficulties. The Konami Code is so popular and so ingrained in gaming culture that the code appears in plenty of non-Konami games too, like BioShock Infinite, where the code unlocks the extra hard mode called 1999 mode. In Dead by Daylight, the code unlocks a special charm of the Vic Viper ship used in Gradius if you use the code with one of the Silent Hill characters selected on the main menu. And in the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World game, if you input the code while holding the trigger buttons, you instantly explode. It's always nice when game developers have a sense of humor when it comes to their cheat codes. One game that has that sense of humor and more is the 2000 Spider-Man game developed by Neversoft. By going to the cheat section and entering in specific codes, you can get crazy stuff. Like if you enter the code Funky Town, but without the O, you get Spider-Man with a huge head, hands, and feet. If you enter in the code Stickman, Spider-Man turns into a noodle-thin version of himself. If you prefer alternate costumes over alternate body proportions, no worries because this game has a ton of them. If you enter the code Secret War, but without the second E, you get probably Spidey's most iconic alt outfit, the symbiote black suit. The cool thing about the alternate costumes in this game is that some of them give Spider-Man different abilities too. The black suit gives Spider-Man unlimited webs. His Spider-Man 2099 costume, which you get by using the password Miguel O, gives Spider-Man enhanced strength. Although, some costumes are actually a downgrade, like the amazing Bagman costume, which is unlocked by entering the code Kick Me, that only allows Spider-Man to use 2 web cartridges. Some of these costumes are some pretty deep cuts, like the Spidey Unlimited costume from the very short-lived Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon from 1999, which is unlocked by entering the code Synoptic. While I have way more memories with this game, Neversoft is probably far more well known for being the developers of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. Like Spider-Man 2000, these games have tons of cheat codes, but today we'll only be looking at the codes from Pro Skater 2. Funnily enough, Spider-Man is a secret character in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, which you can unlock by pausing the game, holding L1, and entering the code XXX square triangle up down left up square triangle X triangle circle X triangle circle, and then selecting end run. This code will unlock everything in the game, including all of the cheats which you can access from the options menu. One of the characters it unlocks is Officer Dick, whose real name is Richard Envy. Richard Envy never really fit in with the other skaters as a kid, so when he grew up, he decided to become a police officer so he could ruin the fun of all the skaters who called him a poser when he was young. I just gotta say, S-tier backstory. Pro Skater 2 has too many fun cheats. Big Head mode does exactly what you'd expect. There's Disco mode, which turns the game into Rainbow Road basically. Wireframe mode makes the game look like a tech demo. Moon Physics allows you to get some absolutely absurd airtime. And Slow Nick mode makes it so that whenever your character is in the air, they slow down to the point where their frame rate makes the game seem like a PowerPoint presentation. I do like utility cheats in video games like invincibility or extra damage, but a lot of the cheats in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 just seem like weird things the developers thought would be funny, and that's what I think makes them so awesome. You can't talk about cheat codes without bringing up Grand Theft Auto. Plenty of people have fond memories using cheats in GTA San Andreas to spawn crazy vehicles and cause all sorts of mayhem. Depending on what platform you're playing on, the code will be different, but I'm using the PC version, partly because it's the version I have and partly because it has much funnier codes. Instead of just inputting a bunch of buttons, you use letters, which can make for some humorous phrases. You can input these codes at any time during gameplay. One of the most iconic ones is Rocket Man, which spawns a jetpack on CJ. There's nothing like flying all over the map in this very stilted animation. Speaking of flying, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang makes it so that the cars in the game can fly. If that's not crazy enough for you, then you can start a riot with State of Emergency. If chaos isn't your forte and you prefer things to be a little bit more relaxed, then enter Slow It Down to make the game move in slow motion. If you really want to chill out though, Life's a Beach will make CJ don some swim trunks and cool shades. GTA games are all about running around in big sandboxes, causing all sorts of trouble, and just doing whatever you want, so having a plethora of different cheat codes really adds to that experience. Cheat codes aren't nearly as popular as they once were. It seemed like most games had some sort of cheat code or password system that allowed you to do anything from skipping levels to breaking the game in half. It makes me wonder why cheat codes seem a lot rarer these days. It could be because cheat codes tend to trivialize playing the actual game. Passwords allow you to skip over a ton of levels, and I think most developers wouldn't want you skipping to the final boss of the 80-hour-long story-driven RPG that they spent 5 years making. Since games tend to take a lot longer to finish these days, there's a whole lot more content to miss. It could also be because game development as a whole is a lot more corporate. In the 80s and early 90s, games were made by very small teams. It was quite often to have less than a dozen people working on a game. This made each game seem a whole lot more personal. These games weren't big budget yearly releases made by a bunch of people trying to make a paycheck. These were cool projects made by a handful of people with unique ideas. I feel like this less restrictive, more down-to-earth atmosphere allowed for some of the more weirder, quirkier ideas to stick around. I mean, could you imagine The Last of Us with a big head mode? I guess another reason why cheats aren't as common is because a lot of the stuff that would have been relegated to cheats in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s ended up becoming paid DLC. Costume packs, in-game currency, bonus content, a lot of that stuff is the kind of stuff you see with a $ next to it these days. It does make sense from a business perspective. This isn't stuff that's necessary for the base experience of playing a game, so you can't really criticize game companies for not having them in the base game. Well, as long as it's not day one DLC, because then I'd definitely say screw you. But even if you don't mind this stuff being DLC, the fact that cheat codes and cheats in general were secret made them feel more special. When your friend told you about a cool code to unlock a secret character, it was the most amazing thing ever. And being that friend to tell someone you know about a cheat code was awesome too. It made you feel like you were in a secret special club initiating a new member. You knew something that not a lot of people knew about. Heck, by making this video, I found out about a ton of cheat codes that I never knew about for a ton of my favorite old games. Anyways, I've rambled long enough. Cheat codes are really cool. They promote fun and discovery, and while we probably won't ever see them make a big resurgence, they were a really nice part of gaming history.